Hey there guys, so it looks like we're back with part two of, bench pressing 3 plates per side is equivalent of the black belt in powerlifting. So got a few questions from you guys relating to the previous videos, and I'll just sort of run through my take on them. One of them was the standard used for like sub-junior or junior lifters. Um, Personally, considering your age and the rest of it, just enjoy the sport. There's no point in comparing yourself to people who, have been doing this for a very, very long time. It's like if you're playing soccer, footy, basketball, whatever, you're not going to compare yourself to, the professionals in the sport. It's just a really irrelevant way of sort of doing it. And the thing is, because you're young, you've got age on your side, and it's going to make the biggest difference in the world. And speaking of that, like, because you're young, I'd put a bigger emphasis on technique over weight. You probably hear that all the time. But the reality is, in powerlifting, like, this is going to be my 15th year competing. I've seen so many people burn out. More around that 4 to 5 year mark, they just sort of, that's when all the major injuries for them start to happen. And it's generally because their first 1 to 2 years of like training and competing, their technique was really quite poor. And then by year 3 and 4, they've gained some significant strength despite their poor form. And then all the injuries start to happen. And if they're lucky, they get to year 5 and either they burn out or they end up with a pretty severe injury. That's what I generally see. The other thing, I've taken a few notes. Look at the older lifters, like 30s to 40s, and see what health issues they've run into as well. Like you being younger, you're going to go, especially if you're under 20 and you see a guy who's 40 and he's battling all these health issues. You're young, at least you know what to avoid. You'll see there's a lot of people, either they'll let their body completely go, they'll have a really poor family life, they might have other, social issues, like in terms of alcoholism, or they may have just played around too hard with the party drugs. And the other thing, like younger lifters, when you look at a lot of the people in the sport of powerlifting and even strongman, it's really bad to say it, but we tend to get a lot more of the dysfunctional types in society. They'll either trade one side of like alcoholism for powerlifting for a while, or they'll trade drug abuse for like powerlifting for a while. And you'll find those people, when they come across, they'll have a very hard mentality of everything or nothing. So don't take that approach of everything or nothing. It does not work well with powerlifting, and you'll get really hurt really quick. So have a look at those style of lifters, and just look at the people that are in the open and see who actually matches up to their age on the score sheet. Like, you're going to see some people that says age 27 and they look like they're mid-30s, and then you're going to see some other people and it's to say age 40 and they don't look 40 at all. They probably look mid-30s. They're the ones, take more advice probably from them. It sounds really bad to stereotype, but stereotypes at the end of the day are around for a reason as well. And I'm glad people find powerlifting, it can be a complete light, at the end of the dark tunnel that they've been traveling down. But as a younger lifter, just be aware, especially where you get your advice from, given, competition days and things like that. And the other thing was, yes, establish habits, to, prevent, what you see with some of the other people. And that might simply be, just keep your health in check, occasionally, go for a short run, go for a swim, catch up with friends. You'll find there's a lot of powerlifters that are very isolated. It's one of those things. Some people just don't have time for much sorry, I'm tongue tied because I'm a little bit sick still. Obviously I caught the what, and first 3 days wasn't too bad. Yesterday hit very hard. So I'm not 100% with it, hence why I got the notes. As I was saying, yeah, have a look at, their health issues and what you can do to prevent it for yourself. A little bit of like maintenance and cardio is going to go a very, very long way in terms of your health and general progression overall. The other one was absolute versus relative strength was a question. The reality is 3 plates aside is not hard to achieve at all. I had someone bring up the fact, what happens if it's a 60 kilo guy, 140 kilos is quite a big bench. The reality is if you start at 60 kilos and you're developing your bench up to 140 kilos, so the 320s aside, you're going to put on some significant muscle mass anyway. So that 60 kilo lifter is going to end up being, an 80 kilo lifter. And I've coached, plenty of 80 kilo lifters that have benched 140. It's really quite common. So yeah, I don't take that as a serious, factor, because the reality is if you spend 3-4 years, okay, let's take 4 years and you put on 5 kilos of muscle mass a year, you're going to go from 60 to 80 kilos quite quick. Well, 4 years, relatively speaking. But, you spend longer and you're going to continue to bulk up and get stronger. The only time, relative versus anything, I'd probably say is age. Older lifters are obviously going to have, a far bigger struggle. That's simply just due to, testosterone levels declining, growth hormone declining, a whole bunch of other factors. But yeah, if you're definitely under 40, then, you got every chance. A lot of the top powerlifters as well, they don't peak until very late 30s, early 40s, just as a reference point. So if you go back, or just have a look at, the current world champions in, the IPF, or have a look at some of the other open invite-only competitions, you'll see a lot of the really strong guys, late 30s, early 40s. Occasionally, you're now going to get quite a few lifters in that 27, 28 bracket, or very young 30s. I'm not going to say it's all due to supplements in the sport, but with how fast the standard of sport is going up, and the mentality that's sort of being pushed into the sport, that go hard or go home approach, it's having an effect on the sport and the totals that you see in certain age groups. So yeah, look, it's one of those things. Age, as I said, does make a big difference later on, but if you're under 40, you still got, every chance of benching, 3 plates, for the sake of general purpose of this question. And then number 3 was, just my opinion and philosophy on it. I mean, for me, I never really thought, 3 plates was that big of a deal, considering, if you want to be anything in a sport, you're always going to have to put time into it. So, 3 plates was just the entry point. If you wanted to get really good at footy or soccer or the rest of it, you're going to be spending years on doing drill work, field, training, running, you name it, all the other stuff that, I haven't really played around with in life. The only sports I really played was rugby league and rugby union. So, I get an idea of what goes into that, but to get to the top level of any of those things, you're just going to have to put in the work. So, occasionally you're going to get people who are just genetically gifted and, bench 3 plates with very, very little training or work just due to their size. And you're going to find that in certain sports. Some people are just, genetically huge, and, they're going to be gifted for, say, basketball, or they'll be gifted for strongman, or, they'll be gifted in whatever endeavor they choose, providing it's relevant to the sport that they want. So, yeah, look, people, you can disagree, have your own opinions on it. Happy to have people challenge my opinion on it as well. But like at the end of the day, it is just my opinion, and it's my observation, that I've seen in the sport for a prolonged period of time. If you wanted to be considered a runner, you're not going to just do a run on the weekend. You're going to put some effort and training into it. Just doing that occasional fun run is not going to make you a runner. Same thing with just lifting weights. You just lift casually at the gym, you're never really going to be considered a powerlifter until you sort of step on the platform or put up 3 plates aside in a competition, 320s that is, on the bench. So, other people, their specialties might be deadlifts and other things. If you're putting up decent deadlift numbers, I'm not going to say you're not a powerlifter. That's not the point that I'm trying to make. 3 plates aside, it's a generalized comment, because the international question about strength is, what do you bench? No one asks, what do you squat? What do you deadlift? So I guess you guys probably get, the generalization I'm trying to make with the video title as well. But if you guys have any other, questions or comments that you want to leave, anything else to add to it, happy to do a part 3 if enough arises from it. Otherwise, that's pretty much it for this evening. If you guys haven't already, hit like and subscribe, and have a great day wherever you are.